I'm now here with Bam, my good friend at Dell Technologies, who's also our CTO ambassador. Thanks for being here, Bam. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I want to discuss with you business continuity disaster recovery. How do you define this, first of all?
Well, business continuity, disaster recovery, they're actually two things. The ability of a business to continue to run in the event that there is a disaster or threat of any kind. Disaster recovery is the ability of us to be able to use technology to enable that recovery.
Okay. And, you're with customers all the time. What's the biggest gap you see in their BCDR planning?
Firstly, it's more of a paper exercise. One of the first questions I ask customers is, when was the last time you tested your DR?
Yeah.
And the look on their faces is typically, wow, nobody's ever asked us that question.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing they say is, yeah, we did it, we tested it last week. And then you say, what was the result of that? And then they go quiet again.
Yeah.
So which tells me they don't really have a disaster recovery plan.
Okay. And that's a great question. In the customers I've been with where they do their testing, they do this once a year, every month, every 6 months, whatever it is. And they're like, oh, it didn't work because we had to have manual interventions to adjust the plan. But when I look at it, I think that's the whole point, is that you do the BCDR testing so you find the gaps and plug them.
Yeah.
But they say the best laid plans all fail the second something goes wrong. And what are the most effective ways you've seen customers implement a BCDR to be able to survive an unforeseen circumstance?
So the implementation, so if we follow the Dell methodology, we start from a business-centric position. So, from the business needs to be able to tell us what are the most critical services that they have. So if we take a service view, a customer will consume a service. So, we use our apps to consume our banking services. Internet banking is another example. So the manifestation starts from what is a service and what is the criticality of that service to the business, right? And then we flow down into what are the technologies that support that and enable that, and then the sequence in which those applications and services run together.
You kind of mentioned a few things there, and you talk about Dell's approach to planning all these things. The most successful customers we see are the ones who have developed the most mature processes and done the testing. Can we double click into the value of having the right runbooks deployed and why it's so critical in a BCDR plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, the first point is to think about what are the services that we're running. Now, a service is made up of lots of components: infrastructure, applications, upstream applications, downstream applications, third-party applications. They all come together and they make up a service.
Correct.
Now, the runbooks are there to help us understand what those interdependencies are. Because when we go to recover that service, it has to be done in a sequence.
Correct.
Give an example, maybe just something very high level. Foundational to everything is a network. Another foundational piece is our directory service to authenticate. If those things are not there, nothing is going to run.
Correct. So basically, if we have all this stuff documented in an emergency where everyone's panicking, we just follow the steps, the chance for success keeps increasing. Absolutely.
And what you want to do is you want to be able to have those processes defined. So think about them as standard operating procedures, right, in the context of a runbook. And what we are able to do is we're able to rehearse them, find the gaps, remediate those gaps. Another thing to think about in terms of those runbooks is, guess what? Applications change. We upgrade them, we do firmware upgrades. We need to update those runbooks because things change within the technologies, their behaviors change. The way they integrate with each other changes as well. So we want to make sure those things are kept fresh and unique.
Yeah, so it's a live document, right? And I think this is some of the mistakes we've seen in the past, is that they build the runbook, 2 years later, they haven't even updated anything. There's 100 more applications they need to take into consideration, right? So it's not that they won't be able to recover, it just takes more and more time, increasing risk, data loss, things like that. Let me ask you one last question. You meet a CIO and he tells you, I don't have a lot of confidence in our DR plan currently, or our BCDR plan. What's a low friction way that Dell can come in and help them?
Yeah, so from a consulting perspective, so we do have a very large consulting organization. From a consulting perspective, we come in to help them, firstly, do these 4-hour sessions, what we call accelerator workshops.
Okay.
We look for identify the key stakeholders within their technical team, not their business team, to come on get a quick understanding of their reality today. So, some of the questions I asked at the beginning. When was the last time you tested your DR?
Yeah.
What is stopping you from testing that DR? Some customers will say the business has no appetite for disruption. And so how do we help them get around that?
Okay.
Maybe they don't even know what technology they have in the environment or the state of that technology. So we start with that accelerator workshop to get a bearing of where they are, and then we can then decide on what the next steps are.
Okay. And then we provide recommendations, action plans.
Absolutely.
So let me finish with one more thing, because you gave me an idea now. How do we impact a customer's recovery time objective, recovery point objectives with our BCDR services and consulting?
Yeah, so the business impact assessment is critical, because a business will tell us what the expectations of recovery time and recovery point objectives
Right.
are. So the recovery time is how long can we afford to be down before we can recover. In some cases, think about internet banking, it's 0.
Yeah.
The recovery point is how much data can we afford to lose to at least recover to a known good business state. So minimum viable company, as one of the other guys has spoken about earlier.
Correct.
So what we try and do is help customers, firstly, from a business perspective, define what those RTO and IPO expectations are. And then we look at it from a technology perspective to see what is the reality or feasibility of being able to achieve that. And then obviously somewhere in the middle is a calibration we reach with the business and get agreement on.
Okay, great. So, that gave me a lot of things to think about, that fundamentally BCDR is mandatory, and we know this from a business point of view, but really preparing, testing, drilling will give us that success we want as an outcome in case of a disruption.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Bam. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. Thank you.